Hello, Hojoz here, and today we are finally back for another season of the Sadara Fight competition, the third season, which has uh, had quite a few setbacks. Yes, indeed, because three times the charm, I guess. We have seen people that made entries powered, only with Juno power, but sadly Junos weren't allowed this season, so they were pretty much disqualified instantly and never received an update. Furthermore, missiles seem to be blowing up left, right, and center, causing one craft after another to be disqualified. And finally, we couldn't reach the 16 plane limit, so I opted for 12 instead. We've had quite a few setbacks, which is why I'm proud to announce that next season we'll do a guns only battle. Anyway, let's look at the entries for this season. First up, you have the Alpha 1X, built by Jolly Roger Aerospace. What are the interesting things about this craft? Well, it features more AIM 120s than AIM 9s, and it has two guns set at maximum range, and apparently these two weren't disabled. Oh well. Your design choice, Jerry, not mine. I won't judge you for it. Missiles per target is at 4, so he's dumping all the 120s in one go. And yeah, that's basically everything we have to say about it. One thing though, you can see that drop time and decouple speed has been altered a lot, which has pretty much been a requirement in order to have your missiles blow up less frequently. Because, well, that's another thing that you'll see in this season. I have inspected all planes, and I have made sure that at the first time of asking at testing, they wouldn't explode their craft due to missiles dropping onto them or missiles exploding before they even get a chance of pursuing the target. Explosion then causing half the craft to be destroyed. But yeah, I've made sure that that wouldn't happen as frequently. But while I was making one of the replacement entries, since we only had eventually had 7 entries made by you, so I've pretty much filled half the field again. I discovered that it's pretty much impossible to make a craft that deploys missiles reliably without explosions every time. Because, well, I swear I've flown 5 matches with that thing, and I've seen that thing explode 1 or 2 times simply because the missile exploded before it got a chance of chasing the target. Or it chased the target too soon, because, well, if you deploy your missiles at like 400 meters from the craft, the missile will of course correct for that by making a very aggressive course correction, and said very aggressive course correction has been known to get in the way of your wings, so it again would just blow up half the craft. So yeah, now that you've heard that entire story, you'll understand why next season will be a guns only season, and why next season will be I will allow all of AP Plus instead of just cockpits and propeller engines. Well, with that out of the way, we have taken a look at the Alpha 1X, and well, another interesting thing is that it uses the stubby radome, which is less aerodynamically competent, of course. But hey, another design choice that I'm critiquing here, which would even have a positive effect on the Alpha 1X. Anyway, looks like a great entry. It beat the CSR Mark 4 C. So I'm expecting this one to be competent. Next up then, the Bumblebee. This one submitted by Mr. Zenair, one of the new competitors in this season. We had to have new competitors since people like Fan Jerry, the winner of last season, built Juno Craft, and Crispy Nugget, the guy who just failed at the first time of asking every time. He also built his craft with Junos. So it's pretty sad that we can't see both first place and last place man participate in this season of Sadara Fight competition. But hey, it's at least fun to see new people entering. So yeah, this is the Bumblebee by Zenair. And the interesting thing is that he actually fitted control surfaces to the front of his wings. Those set at minus 150 for maneuverability. There's one annoying note. There's one annoying note. This one actually didn't beat the Asari Mark 4C, which after all wasn't a requirement to pass flight inspection, but it would certainly be at least proof that you'd be competent and not be blown up every time, like Crispy Nugget in the last season. And yeah, it's pretty sad to see that not everyone could pass flight inspection at the first time of asking, because this one had to be modified actually. And at the second time of asking, it still wasn't good enough to beat the Asari, but it at least didn't have the oh so common missile blow-up issues. So yeah, this is the Bumblebee. I can also remember that the landing gear were causing some vibration issues on takeoff. Again, going for the stubby radome, and very smartly just hit the AI in here. Nicely done. It also features some clipped control surfaces, some clipped fuel tanks. Nothing I wouldn't do actually. And well, besides the clipping, it's I can't say much more about the Bumblebee. So, next up we have the beefy Goshawk. The entry that had sadly not gotten to the finals of the last CFC season, and actually quite resembled one of the amazing Cowpix entries, which sadly never got modified so that the missiles wouldn't explode, so it won't feature this season. But it actually resembled that one quite a lot. It's called the Super Basilisk, by the way. Anyway, Beefy Goshawk Mark 11. It's opting for the full 150 fuel in the engine cell. Of course, an engine cell means that you don't have to have intakes necessarily, which then of course saves weight. And you don't even have to adjust your fuel load. Profits all around. And again, Beefy Flyer 1.4.1 has opted to fit only 2 guns at quite unusual positions. But hey, that's quite a trademark of Beefy Flyer 1.4.1, mounting guns in unusual positions. Anyway, it features quite a lot of missiles, so expect this one to spam out missiles like crazy. It only features 1 or 2 AIM-120s, actually, which would take care of the craft with larger lock-ons. By the way, I wasn't really looking at lock-ons this season. I mean, a 6 or 7 kilometer lock-on still passed as 5 kilometer lock-on in game. So I didn't take the lock-on so strict this time, which is why next season we will have a minimum and a maximum size as determined by the BDA RCS tab, because as you can see in the BDA RCS tab, it features some sizes, and it's pretty cool. It also features some sizes here. Maybe I should actually employ those sizes. Yeah, maybe I should actually. But yeah, that's the Beefy Goshawk Mark 11. a return from last season, and let's hope it will be better this time. Next up then, the Beefy Trident, also an entry by Beefy Flyer 1.4.1, and geez, this is quite the unusual craft. I can say though, from flight testing, this thing performs remarkably well. It is weird, performs well. I mean, it just fits all criteria of a Hojoz craft, to be honest. So yeah, actually, 3 guns on this one, with quite the interesting positions for both flare and chaff. Well, it isn't actually quite so interesting because it's pretty much expected for them to be seen on the ends of the wings. And well, after you've taken the first look at the Beefy Trident, you'll immediately know why it's called Beefy Trident. And yeah, this one features 3 AIM-120s, so this one is looking to get the craft with the larger lock-ons, such as the 3 Asaris featuring in this battle, the 1 Bulbous. It's actually borderline 5-6 kilometers as well, and then the Comsaro Mark II. Well, it's a Comsaro Mark II. I don't know the lock-on ranges of these out of my head. I mean, it's been a month or 2 since I've announced these rules, and quite a few days since I've designed both the Comsaro and the Bulbous. So yeah, I have also some bad memory. So this is then the Beefy Trident. The interesting shape, but it's proving to be quite competitive. So you most certainly should watch out for the Beefy Trident. Let's move on then to the Asaris, beginning with the least advanced version. Of course, this is the craft that you had to beat in order to enter into the season, or you could beat, and it would basically be a guarantee that you'd be competitive. It is the Asari Mark 4C. It sounds actually quite weird coming out of my mouth, but yeah, this is basically your box standard Asari. Not much changed compared to the Mark 3, 2, and 1. Well, Mark 2 and 1 both featured jammers. Mark 3 even 2, I think. Yeah, quite the box standard Asari. If you're wondering where the fuck are the Asari's guns, well, they are here. It's quite sneakily done, and it preserves aesthetics. So that's basically why those guns are there. Now then, Asari Mark C2, which features a different gun layout. I've opted for M230s, 3 M230s here instead, as M230s were proving to be quite a bit better at making the craft explode than 3 20mm Falcons. Well, it makes sense actually. These are 30mm and the Falcons are 20mm. And these even feature an explosive round. It basically just takes out a decent part at 1 or 2 hits, which of course helps when the AI can't aim. But besides that, it's basically retaining all the standard settings on the AI and the weapon manager. All the control surfaces too, and the missiles are, well, the scope speed is actually at 5 for these missiles. But as you can see here, merging in, I placed my weapon manager at the bottom because after seeing all those CFC flight tests, I noticed that the weapon manager and AI were quite prone to being sniped. So I thought, well, let's move the weapon manager, it's pretty essential. And the AI is pretty much hidden anyway. Then let's move on to the most advanced version of the Asari, the Mark 4 E4, which sounds actually quite funny. This one featuring improved control surfaces, aim 9s only, and well, quite a few other things. Well, I say quite a few other things. Well, the guns are still at the standard, at their standard precision. Pretty much everything is at their standard precision and their standard configuration. Only this one was made to be slightly more competent. Only it has, this one has airbags actually, both bottom and top. I fitted those thinking that it would make a competitive difference to the E4 compared to the C, but to be honest there, it didn't. Turns out that the AI don't use airbags as often as they did in the past. Moving on to the next craft, we have the CE Bulbous Mark I, previously called the CE Comsaro Mark III C7, C6 actually, sorry. This craft was actually judged to be to have too much difference between the Mark II and the Mark III Comsaro, so I just renamed it to the Bulbous. Bulbous pretty much being because I thought I'd name it Bulbasaur, but that's pretty uninteresting and pretty unoriginal, seeing as I already have Charmander. But I think you can see why I'd name this Bulbasaur or Charmander or Charmeleon, because well, it pretty much has the same layout as a Charmander, only it has these fancy tail fins at the back and features the normal Charmander wing theme, slide forwards, and of course sliding into here, a lot of clipping, but mainly here is our AI, or rather our probe core, which will be controlling the entire thing. So basically, just see this one as a successor to the Mark 8 Charmander. Of course, the Mark 8 Charmander being a drone. And, well, the Mark 8 Charmander didn't feature missiles at the same spots as the Bulbous does, because, well, to be honest, I'd fit missiles both top and bottom and just basically load this thing full with missiles. But there's one issue. Top missiles just explode instantly. They're just not viable. And bottom missiles, well, they also like to explode with me. So I thought the best way to make sure that the Bulbous won't have missile explosions is to feature all the 6 missiles at the wingtips, and still it just explodes sometimes randomly, as I said previously in the video. Just 1 or 2 times in 5 matches that it would just explode. It just feels like exploding and having fun like that. Next one then, Comsaro Mark II D. This is just a clusterfuck. By the way, that Bulbous not really good at dodging missiles. Neither is this Comsaro. I just tried some advices from Dun92, but as it turned out, this is not actually not actually good for this type of craft. It just means that it would just explode randomly, or would just explode to aim-9s. Besides that, apparently sometimes the AI just doesn't mind the missile, just doesn't mind the aim-9 missile. It just means the aim-9, it exists, it's coming towards me. I just apply 4 flares at the beginning and not maneuver and just fire the afterburners at full throttle. And that's actually something I think should be altered, but that's all up towards the BDAC devs. As you can see here though, it features quite the different missile loadout. Both missiles and guns. The guns not actually mounted on the fuselage itself, but slightly outwards from it, and one at the top, of course. This being to basically get more hits. I found that this gets more hits per bullets fired, or however you want to define that, as the normal configuration of guns I used to use. So I fitted Comsaro like this. Yeah, 6 missiles then. these ones angled at 15-degree angle. Why did I angle those at a 15-degree angle? Well, you see, as this craft is flying, the missiles will be deployed like this, or like this, and to basically ensure that they clear the fuselage as much as possible. It's actually a way that I tried still to see if I could still mount top missiles. I mean, it worked, but again, there's too much explosions, which meant that I wouldn't risk it. So yeah, that's Comsaro. It actually features 2 engines. And the Bulbous does actually too, but the Bulbous is pretty much has 2 Panthers clipped into one, which is why you can't see that there are actually 2 engines. And well, everything is basically clipped here at the back. Finally though, a remark I would like to say both for the Bulbous and the Comsaro is that you'd see this more often, the way I laid out my fuel tanks, because well, turns out that if you lay out your fuel tanks at the end, you can actually, at the end of making the craft, of course, you could actually make sure that the fuel drains such that the center of mass doesn't move, and that means that your craft is basically performing consistently. And I thought I'd like that. Actually think that I first saw that in an Inter's Odyssey video. But yeah, I adopted that for the Comsaro and the Bulbous in order to be a little bit more competitive. Well then, let's move on to the next entry. It's the IV7F, built by Dundun92, which is simultaneously the only one which exploited the fact that I forgot to include in the rules that you couldn't have multi-stage vehicles. And to be honest, I'm actually quite glad that I missed that one, because it made me realize that there are so many fun tactics to be used with multi-stage vehicles. And if you think ahead, you can even make your own bombs or missiles using the multi-stage vehicle, and I quite like that idea. Anyway, the IV7F, quite a large wingspan, but he did manage to get it under 5 kilometers in his save. The lock-on, however, in here is 7, but in his save it's 5, and besides that, there of course have been more inconsistencies with my save versus the others. Namely that missiles wouldn't explode on the save of the other guy, but they would 100% at my save. It does not make any sense, and it annoys me actually. Yeah, this is the IV7F. This is pretty much armor, but I thought that I would just avoid that rule because I'm not actually agree with that rule so much anymore. So yeah, a Vulcan one Vulcan here, and 2 more Vulcans there, and it's pretty much an interesting design, and that's all I can say about it. The IV7F, built by Dundun92, and I could pitch this one to be rather competitive. I wouldn't be surprised if it's competitive. Next one then, Pegasus M1, built by the amazing Cowpig. This guy has quite a lot of experience in fighter jet competitions, as far as I know. As you can see, it's basically just another scrap pile clusterfuck that the Samurai Sled was from Van Jerry, except, well, of course we know that the Samurai Sled by Van Jerry, that basically won the competition and proved that building a scrap heap challenge plane, as I'll describe them from now, actually means that you're more competitive. You know, I should make a rule against scrap heap challenge planes, because this kind of clusterfuck doesn't look good, and I'm all about my aesthetics. Yeah, something for next season to consider, I guess. Then 3 Vulcan guns, positioned actually in rather close proximity to each other. Then a radome, which pretty much looks like it's an afterthought, doesn't it? And a whole lot of battery shit and stuff here. I can't say much about this one, pretty much because I don't remember it flying, to be honest. Air brakes actually, yeah, interesting. Probably accounting for yaw on the plane. But yeah, pretty interesting tiny clusterfuck plane. And as we know, it's tiny clusterfuck planes. They have a habit of winning Sudar fighter competitions. Final entry then, the 12th craft is the Stingray by Zenair. This one technically winning from the CSRE Mark 4C, but also after a modification was done. As you can see here, Zenair realized the same thing that I did, mounting the guns further away from, well, the center of the craft. Improves hit chances. I don't know why, but as you can see here, he also chose to go for 2 guns, and it's pretty interesting to see that he also chose to make a craft based on 2 Mark II fuselages, which of course are known to be draggy. But I like it actually. It pretty much makes me think that this is an Asari Mark 4C, but a little bit stripped and modified by another guy. Which, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if that's actually what he had done. And yeah, those are the 12 entries for the 3rd season of the Sudar Fights competition. Now, let's go to the graphics and see how they will match up in the coming 3 episodes of the Sudar Fights competition. Of course, I'm hoping to make 1 episode each week. But yeah, let's look at the graphics, and after that, it will be, of course, the outro with bureaucratic voice bold. And well, here we are then, with the first tab. It's going to be the BV Goshawk Mark 11 by BV Flyer 141 versus the CSRE Mark 4C by me. The CSRE Mark 4 E4 by me will also battle the Comsaro Mark 2D, also by me. Episode 2 will feature the Stingray by Zenair versus the CSRE Mark 4 C2 by me, and the CE Bulbous Mark 1 by me versus the BV Trident by BV Flyer 141. Then in the final 3 episodes, the Alpha 1X by Jolly Roger Aerospace will battle the IV-7F by Dundon92. Also, the Bumblebee by Zenair will battle the Pegasus Mark 1 by the Amazing Cow Pig.